My name is Keith, and among other things, I'm an alcoholic. Glad to be here, and thank the committee for inviting us. And it's always a privilege to be able to share on a program with my wife, and she always upstages me. And I get to go first because I was drunk, and I don't only remember a few little highlights, but she was sober, and she can clue you in as to what really happened as Sue sees it. Thank the committee for the beautiful baskets, and the hotel has been really good with their service and what have you. I want to thank Reuben and Tracy for coming from California with us to spend the weekend. I was born in Texas, and I flew out here from California. So I want to tell you so that you'll know the difference between a Texas tale and a fairy tale. Fairy tale starts out once upon a time, and a Texas tale starts out, you're probably not going to believe this shit, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I was born and reared up in the Texas Panhandle. I was born in Perryton, Texas, 6 miles from Oklahoma, and my folks lived in Oklahoma, and Sue's folks lived in Kansas, and so you could go from the Baptist bought all the liquor license, so in Texas, so we had to go into Oklahoma if we wanted 3-2 beer. If we wanted anything stronger than that, we had to go through Oklahoma into Kansas, and you could drink when you were 18 in Kansas, and they had honky tonks, and that's where most of the action went on, and we made those runs frequently and what have you. I got in trouble almost immediately as a result of alcohol. My first time I was locked up was in 1952, and it was a direct result of driving while intoxicated, hit and run with bodily injury and leaving the scene of the accident. And I got out of that little situation. Being locked up never hurt me. It probably was good for me. And I learned a few things, like it doesn't make any difference whether you're pitching or catching, you're still playing ball. So I got out of that little situation and got married. I married a little gal whose daddy had lots of money. My grandma said it doesn't take any more effort to marry a rich girl than it does to marry a poor girl. She was right, except she didn't tell me it takes more effort to keep one. That relationship lasted 9 months, and the only thing that was born and birthed was me. And I was in jail down in Fort Worth, Texas for hit and run, bodily injury, leaving the scene of an accident again. And my father-in-law come to see me. He said, I've got a lot of money, and I said, I know that. And he said, the reason I have a lot of money is because I don't make bad investments, and you're a bad investment. So the beginning of my abandonment issues, and I had to do a little time over that thing. Didn't hurt me any. I just, went with the flow, did as you go. When I'm locked up, the world's a safer place. My friends and my enemies are glad that I'm locked up, but I get out. I used to think I was free, but I wasn't. I was just loose, and I went to I got out of prison, and I went down to Wolf Creek dance on Saturday night, where the men are men and the sheep run scared. And, there's no law down there. There's no cops, no nothing. And down a little bit north of Canadian Texas, down in the middle of no man's land there. And I came into this dance on Saturday night, and I wanted everybody to know I was out, and I grabbed a Coke bottle and rolled it up against the stage and said, "Let the meanest sucker in the house bring it down to me." And it looked like a stampede coming my direction. I may be sick, but I ain't stupid. And I hit the first guy leading that charge, and I ducked into the woman's restroom. And there was a lady standing there by the door, and I said, "Tell me when the fight's over." Pretty soon she come in and said, "You can get out now." And I went out. The band was playing, and she was handy, and I'm a quick study. And I said, "How about a dance?" And one quick dance, I found out she had a driver's license, she had a job, a car, place to stay, and money in the bank, none of which did I have. And I said, "Where you been all my life, baby? I've been looking for you forever." And she said, "Where you been?" I said, "I just got out of prison." She said, "I just got out of an unwed mother's home down in San Antonio, Texas." I said, "Well, why don't we go together and give two people a break?" And we did. We set up a little lighthouse keeping, and for 2 weeks, after 2 weeks of going together, they nicknamed us Hatchet and Hammer. It was just so violent, it had to be love. It was so sick, so sick, and everybody said we wouldn't make it, and that was 55 years ago. Yeah, and you think the steps are hard, try the marriage vows, you know what I mean? That's, we had a shotgun wedding, and her mother was drunk, her boyfriend was drunk, and I was drunk, and Sue was sober, and the preacher was drunk, and we got married in Amarillo, Texas. In the preacher's kitchen, his wife was peeling onions in the kitchen, and we were all crying. And it was just absolutely unbelievable. We just beat the living tar out of each other and call it foreplay. And anybody else got in the way, why, we'd whip up on them too. And you know, my disease, I'm at least a fifth generation alcoholic. My dad was an alcoholic, my grandpappy was an alcoholic, his dad was an alcoholic, and so on. And I share that for one reason. It's not necessary to have that background in order to be here, but all of their character defects roll into me. I got to be the family's best, worst example right away. And I know the streets, and I know the alleys, and I know about being gone. I don't know anything about being a father. I don't know anything about being a husband. You know, I tried. You know, I'd get them a little house and her and the kid, and Easter I'd get them a rabbit with ringworm, and everybody gets ringworm but the alcoholic. The alcoholic don't get ringworm. We're too polluted, you know. Get a dog. I got a 120-pound German Shepherd dog, and the dog attacked me all the time. I took him to obedience class, and he attacked the teacher, and got kicked out of obedience class on that one, and I eventually got in some trouble, had to leave Texas, and my friend Lon Shorty told me I could get a job on a ranch 40 miles west of Long Beach, California. That's ocean. But oh, ye of little faith, you know. So I loaded them up, and people were after me, and I left Texas and headed for California. I got a prescription filled in a baggie, and before I left, and some people in AA call that a geographic, but when I left Texas, it was unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. Put the dog and the cat and the kid and her in the car, got a bottle, and headed for California. It took me 30 days to get there. Most people can do it in 3, but I was lost a lot. And finally got there. I was out there in that petrified forest wandering around for a day or two. Got to California, and my drunken uncle got me a place to stay. Right next door, a motorcycle gang and a bunch of hippies. I never seen no hippies. They was taking their clothes off and dropping acid and laying naked in the front yard, watching the sun come up and go down. I'm a joiner. Dropped some acid and went to see 2001. Said, be careful, you'll have a bad trip. I said, man, it ain't a good trip unless it's a bad trip, man. What are you talking about? Anyway, I did the deal. We got him there, and it was crazy. And my drinking got worse, and then it got worser. I ended up in front of a judge, and the judge is talking to me about me, and he had the right guy. He had my file. This is in the 60s, and I only did drugs twice, the 60s and the 70s. Judge had my file. I've been arrested 57 times for assault and battery and resisting arrest within a 10-block area of my house. I told her, I said, at least give me a 2-block run and start, for God's sake. Cops are always at my house. My house was affected by alcoholism. It was painted 4 different colors. There's a Corvair and an Edsel parked out there, and a motorcycle stuck in the front of the house where I did a wheelie up the driveway and hit the house. So they sentenced me to A&A. I didn't know what that was. I've been doing B&B myself. So she went to see a lawyer, and she come home and said, you need to go to AA. I said, I knew it'd come to that. I didn't tell her I was on a court card. And so she said, well, what time's the meeting? I said, I think it's 8:30, and it's over at 10. So I laid down on the couch, and she's carrying this butcher knife around all the time. So she come over, whooped that butcher knife on me, and said, get up, we're going to A&A. Peeled me off the couch. I'd been in a fight, got my head hit real hard, and had a blood-soaked earmuff on, and I had long hair and a long beard, all matted, had a wife beater on, a pair of cut-off Levi's, and thongs, and no identification. I was traveling light. I got up, we got in the old Pinto station wagon. We had a baby poop brown Pinto station wagon. And we got the dog and the cat and the kid, and my kid looked like a wounded animal, hair hanging in her face and her head down all the time. Old coat on with rotten Easter eggs down in the lining. She had a beehive hairdo with one of them cannon and a half of spray net in it. And I'm whooped up, and we get in the Pinto. It ain't got no reverse. You have to drive through the neighbor's driveway and pull out. We didn't start out that way. That's just where it was, you know. We got in the old Pinto, headed for an A&A meeting. We pulled up outside that church, and a big AA sign out there. I remember looking in there thinking, I wouldn't even sold dope to anybody in there, much less go in there and try to get sober with them, you know. And she sensed my approach avoidance and whipped that butcher knife out and said, what time's the meeting over? I said, I think it's over at 10. She said, I'm going to tell you something, Ace. Your ass come out that door before 10, I'm going to gut you. I believed her. She used to, I'd come home and I'd pass out on my stomach, and she'd have this conversation with me and stab me all over my back. When I'd come to, I'd say, what's wrong with my back? Something happened to my back. She'd say, let me see. And said, you broke out of acne of the back. Let me get to rubbing alcohol and clean you up. So I knew she could use that knife. I wasn't no doubt in my mind about that. So I went to my AA meeting. I sat down in that AA room, looked around, counted the squares and ceilings. I knew to stay away from the old-timers. They're the ones with hair growing out of their ears. And I sat in there. Nobody asked me if I needed the sponsors. They could see she's out there in the Pinto. They didn't ask me if I wanted a book. Because, hey... And that meeting's still there today, and they still don't ask a newcomer nothing. It's just that way. That's where I first went, and I went there. She took me for a while. It seemed like forever. and I didn't drink or I didn't use. I was so dry as a fire hazard. I was late at home, went to that one meeting, and she'd wait outside. Eventually, she let me go by myself. And I got drunk immediately. And I went by that AA meeting and told them I wasn't coming back either. And that was in the early 1970, and I didn't get sober till May 11th, 1976. And so I'm going to tell you something. There ain't nothing worse than having a head full of AA and a belly full of booze. And I went to meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous sober and got up at coffee break and went and got drunk and come back and sat in a meeting. Sometimes I went to meetings drunk and sobered up on the coffee. I was down in Laguna and I come out of a blackout in an AA meeting. That's scary. I would have left, but I didn't know who brought me. And I know what it's like to stand in my kitchen, the bottle of vodka in my hand, looking down the hallway, a little 9-year-old girl standing down at the end of that hallway, and she didn't run down there by the grab me by the leg and say, "Daddy, please don't beat me and Mommy." She just watched me, and I turned around, I took a drink out of that bottle. When I looked back, she is gone. Shame? I'll tell you about shame. You can drink with me, I'm going to take you way past shame. We're going to go way past shame. I know what it's like standing in my bathroom and I'm putting that stuff in me. I look in the mirror, little 9-year-old girl's looking through the hole in the door in the bathroom where I probably stuck my foot. She didn't say nothing. She just watching me as I put that stuff in me. She wants to know if it's going to work. Because if it don't work, she's got to get out of the way because there's hell to pay. I lived like that not a day or a week or a month. I lived like that for a number of years, in and out, in and out. I tried everything. I tried every 12-step program. I tried it all. Got church baptized so many times my skin looked like a prune. And, I'd take them people, church people, come and try to get me to go over there and get saved and change my ways. And, I'd go over there and take my wife and daughter, and I'd be drinking already when I got there. I'd be drinking during the services, and I'd get baptized or something, and then I'd go out and get a bottle out from under the seat of my pickup and wave it to the congregation and take another drink right in front of them. And, the only thing my wife and daughter had left in their life was what their belief in a God with their understanding as they were reared or baptized. And I was robbing them of their soul. The disease of alcoholism in my house was taking a little piece of these people's soul every day. And I didn't know that. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I didn't know that I have a phenomenon of craving. I am the type of alcoholic that has a phenomenon of craving. A phenomenon of craving. An obsession. An obsession is an idea that overpowers all other ideas. And I had a phenomenon of craving, and I had no idea that the chemicals I was putting in me was keeping me running. And I'm going to tell you something. Standing here this morning, over 39 years clean and sober, the animal's in the cage, but the door ain't locked. And there was no hope. Eventually, because I was in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous, I hit a bottom, and I run out of running room. I run out of friends and enemies at the same time. I was sweetly reasonable. And I got so alcohol and dope sick, laying on my face, crawling, gurgling around on an old linoleum floor. I reached out one more time, as feeble as it was. But I asked a man from Alcoholics Anonymous to help me with no condition. No condition. None whatsoever. I asked a man from Alcoholics Anonymous to help me, and he did. Came and made a 12-step call on me, told Sue and Simone to stay in the house, and Sue went with him, and they took them 4.5 hours to get me into a detox. Because I'd been all around and people didn't want me. Just so happened that Dr. Paul Oliger and Dr. Zuska, a non-alcoholic doctor, had just opened a detox in Orange, California. And And the last place they went was there, and they had one bed left. There was 39 of us in that detox, men and women. And Dr. Paul said, I understand this guy. I've seen him around. And he took me in a detox. And I detoxed. I don't ever want to detox again. Ever. I'll never forget detoxing. Nothing. How about some Valium and hard candy, huh? No. Eat a banana. You need potassium. That's what they said. Walk. I'd take 10 steps and laugh, and 10 steps and cry. Eat a banana. 11 days I detoxed off of something else. 20 days I detoxed off of something else. And it was rough. It was rough. I didn't know if I was walking or riding a bicycle. I didn't know if I was Frank or Ernest or where I was going or what my name was. I didn't know any, vital statistics. But I stayed in that detox because I wanted to detox. And after a period of time, they let Sue come over to that detox, and they told her she needed to go to Al-Anon, and the kid needed to go to Alateen, the dog needed to go to Alley Dog, and the cat needed to go. We all needed help. They told me I needed a sponsor. And there was this guy named Rotten Ron that came in there 9 years sober. And I asked him to be my sponsor, and he said, I hate you. I said, well, don't take it personal. I'm not going to. But I hate you too. But then I hate everybody. If you can't do no better than that, I love him, but I hate her. No, if you can't do no better than that, get out of the hate business. So we started that. That guy came and got me and put me in an old box van with a bunch of plastic milk crates in there, and he took off down the road and hit a stoplight, and we all slid to the front. And they weren't nice to me. They were not. I wasn't nice, and they weren't nice to me. Nobody. If I said I don't want to do this, they said, well, go die. We'll stop the car right here and let you out. If they'd have been giving me all that love and kindness, I would have abused them. But they were very firm with me. They'd pull up in front of the house and say, get in. I'd say, where are you going? They'd drive off. You need to know where we're going, why you don't want to go. They told me to go home and don't tell her what's wrong with her. That if I don't tell her what's wrong with her, who's going to tell her what's wrong with her? I said, I don't know, but it ain't going to be you. You just go home and shut up. I owed $250,000 to people. You can't send them a letter and say, I'll pay you $100 a month. I had a house that I bought for $25,000, owed $140 on it. And I had a few other things that were missing in action there. People were unhappy with me, and I had to take care of business. I don't know about what step I was on, but I was making amends right away. And she went to Al-Anon, the kid went to Alateen, and they released me. And, I'm so grateful that they went to a program, both of them, that introduced them to a power greater than themselves, and also educated them on the fact that I'm an alcoholic and I have a disease, that I have a threefold disease: physical, mental, and spiritual. And I had to get physically sober. I had to eat right. I had to learn how to live. And then my mind started coming back a little bit, and I would see frames of my drunkalog, and I would be terrified of the way I lived and the way I treated my family. And I'm grateful for the program of Al-Anon. I wouldn't be sober today if it were not for Al-Anon. I'm very Al-Anon friendly. In my house, it was absolutely necessary because I went to AA and all kinds of things and came home to a sick house. And once she got a program and the kid got a program, things started to change. And I'm forever grateful because I didn't know how to be a disciplinarian. It's hard to be a disciplinarian from a distance. And I'm grateful that the program of Al-Anon and Alateen, gave my family the knowledge of what was wrong with me. Not the excuse, and nobody's a victim there. They were all volunteers. And even my daughter grew up in that violence, and I'm going to tell you something. When she was in her 16, 17 years old, she was a model, and she went all over the Orient and all over the world as a model. And anybody got tough with her, she just took her shoe off and whapped them upside the head, and then called her mother and said, "Thanks, Mom, for teaching me how to take care of myself." She is not a victim. She is a survivor. A survivor. And she came out of that hell and is strong. And she went, when she was 18 years old, went to Italy and modeled over there for 6 years, a ramp model, and met a young Italian man and married him, and they have 2 beautiful granddaughters. I don't come here this morning to tell you a story of a sad, sad story. I'm not a sad story. I didn't come here to turn it off. I came here to turn it on. I came here to get better. And I'll get worse or wonder what's happening. I came here to get it better. And over 39 years, it's got better and better and better and better. I won't hang around if people want to get into depression. I give them. I don't have them. I take care of business. I roll with the ones that want to have fun and enjoy life. And my wife's the same way. We've been married over 52 years. And the one thing that's most, so what, how do you do that? We have good sex. We have good sex in a free room. Right here. And both people participated. Good life. I'll tell you a real quick story. I want to give her a little extra time here because she's a pretty one. Whenever I was a few years sober, I got involved in a convention like this, and they had committee meetings, and everybody fought and raised hell. But my job was to clean up the room after everybody left. So I was cleaning up the room. There was people from over in Santa Monica and Hollywood on that committee. And there was some men over there that were on the entertainment committee from Santa Monica, and everybody's gone. I had a newcomer with me, and my daughter's with me. And so I was looking under a chair, and there was a man's purse underneath the chair. I know the difference. There was a man's purse underneath the chair, and I seen it, and I grabbed it, and I opened it up, and there was cards in there, and there was checkbook and everything, money, and I started, you know, if you can't take care of your stuff, you don't deserve to have it, and I started to steal it. I was 7 years sober, I think, you know, and I looked, the newcomer's watching me, and my kid's watching me, so I said, okay, well, I looked to see who it belonged to. It belonged to one of the guys from Santa Monica, Hollywood area over there was on the committee. So I called him up, and I said, Peter, that was his name, Peter. Peter, I found your purse. He was so glad, he was so happy, and I said, I'll come up Wednesday night and bring it to you. And so Wednesday night, I got the newcomer, and I got my daughter, and we went up to Santa Monica and went to the Wednesday night meeting. Peter was in there. He come running up, and I said, Peter, here's your purse. And he was so glad, and he looked right in there, and sure enough, all his stuff, he was surprised that all his stuff was in there. I said, yeah, I'm surprised too, Peter, but it's I got witnesses. I can't do nothing when I got witnesses. And so I gave him his purse. He hugged me and said, Keith, if there's ever anything I can do for you, please let me know. I thought, I didn't say it, but I thought, Peter, you can't even take care of your purse. How could you possibly help a slick like me, you know? But I didn't say it. I was 7 years sober. I didn't say it. I just thought it. And he left. Sometime later, my daughter wanted to be a model in Italy. She left. She couldn't speak Italian. Blah, blah, blah. She bought a ticket. We took her down to the airport, Los Angeles, put her on an airplane. Down she went, down the deal with all her stuff, and flew to Milan, Italy, and got to Milan, Italy, and we didn't know where she was or what was going on with her. She's having a terrible time, and she finally found an English-speaking meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And she called some people, and some people came and got her out of this room. And she went to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous in Milan, Italy. She's Al-Anon. And there were 16 people in that room, and she sat there, and they went around the room. They came to her, and she said, I know this is a closed meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm an Al-Anon. And they weren't so narrow-minded that they quickly took a vote and said, if you can talk program, we'll let you share. And she knew how to do that. And she shared real briefly what was going on. In that room was Peter. Some years later, from when the day he said, I'll, if anything I can do to help you. here he was sitting in Milan, Italy, in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, a closed meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous that they quickly voted and let my daughter share. And he said, "Your dad's Keith, right?" He said, "I owe him a favor." And he took our little girl and he introduced her all around to models and to places. He took her and got her out of that old dingy room, got her in a place with a bunch of other models, introduced her to agents and what have you, gave her his tape so she could learn the language. That was 29 years ago, almost 30 years ago. And then he came home and called us up and said, "Your little girl's okay." I don't know where Peter is today. But I'm going to tell you something. I'm not so egotistical to stand here that because I did the next right thing, it saved my daughter's life. But if I was still the same asshole at 7 years sober as I was when I first came in these rooms, Simone would have never reached out to you, because she would have said, "Oh, you're just like my asshole dad. I'm not going to reach out to you." But because she'd seen me change, she believed in you, and in her darkest moment, she reached out to you, and you had a hand for her. Now, she started conferences. She's touched thousands and thousands of people's lives in that part of the world. She started women's conferences. She started Alateen conferences. She's translated literature because all the Italians talk with their hands, so she had to get the right words in there. She met a young man. She got herself spiritually fit so that she might be attracted to a healthy man. Should I say that again? She got herself spiritually fit to be attracted to a healthy man, met a young Italian man, a good man her age. They got married from an old Italian family, mafioso, and in the image of her father. Gang related. She married a guy, I don't know what he's doing, but he's got a lot of money. Anyway, doing all right. He's never asked me for any money. That's good. Had 2 beautiful children, and they've never seen me lower. They can call the same phone number and get grandma and grandpa. You know, and it ain't all been easy, man. I've had trouble. I've had trouble of all kinds. You know, I've never worked on my relationship with Sue. I never worked on my relationship with Simone. I worked on my relationship with God, and guess what? Sue's fine. I work on my relationship with God, and my daughter's fine. I work on my relationship with God, and my grandkids are fine. I work on my relationship with you, and I work on my relationship with God, and you're fine. God bless and thank you.